So, but
Exactly.
anyway, guys, welcome to Maine and Mulberry's Public Policy. We're telling some potty jokes here as we get started. And we are just having some fun. We haven't been back together, the three of us, in a little while, since before Christmas. So we are here to talk about Collierville, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and growing town. We're talking a lot about right now economic development and how things that are happening in the economy affect the town of Collierville. So it's kind of cool to follow along. It's a town has undergone a little bit of change. Just came through an election cycle. Not much change there. I think incumbents came back in, but we do have a new town administrator, so that's a little bit of a transition. And of course, just everything that's going on that could be impacting us. John and I talked, I guess week before last, a little bit about crime that could be impacting us as it starts to kind of expand out from major metropolitan areas into more of what you would call the suburban areas. So talked about that a little bit. And today like I said, we haven't had Maureen Fraser, who is vice mayor, with us in a few weeks. And so we're going to let her kind of start off and give us some updates on board, mayor, alderman, what all's happening there. First off, and John Duncan's with us as well, town economic development director. First off, Maureen, are you still the vice mayor, or how long are you vice mayor? What's happening there?
Yes. At our first meeting of the year, which was last week, Monday, I was reappointed for the vice mayor for the town. So you guys are stuck with me for one more year as vice mayor. So yes.
Gotcha. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a little, I don't know, John, were you in the meeting?
I was.
Yeah. I think that Billy Patton likes to have fun with me, so he hesitated before the vote. Like, should I say this?
Yeah, Alderman Patton, he's like
silent.
Yeah, it was like, and then Maureen is like hit him over the head with a hammer or something.
Yeah. So we've been hard at work. You mentioned our new town administrator, Molly. There is actually an event tonight at the Collierville Chamber, Thursday night, a Meet Molly that they're hosting. So it's open to the public from 4 until 6 p.m. So if anyone's watching live or on Thursday, so that'll be interesting and good. But she has hit the ground running.
Yep.
We've had a board retreat. We've set some goals and just sharing of ideas for the year. So she can get after our meeting, then she got with our department heads to kind of help them get an idea of what the goals and the objectives of the mayor and board are for the next year. And so everybody can be on the same page and everybody knows what we're working towards. So
what's that?
What is the goal? Oh, there's a whole, that was about 6 hours worth, Keith. We don't have enough hours in the day today.
What's the main goal? How about that?
But, again, we talked a little bit about our budget, and we're going to be starting budget work sessions here in the next couple of weeks, trying to minimize any kind of a tax increase. But we do have plans to open fire station number 6. We've been working for several years on staffing and our own ambulance service, which our ambulance service is going very, very well. But it costs money to run the ambulance. We talked a little bit about the independent assisted living centers and the number of calls that are coming in from those centers to our ambulance service. And there's a lot of information that we're waiting. So there was a lot of tasks that Molly had with questions that we had, but one of them is like one of the centers has a policy that if someone falls, they won't help them get up. They have to call 911. So our ambulance service and our paramedics are making calls to those centers basically to help people get up off the floor if they've fallen or what have you. And they may not make a call, may not go to a hospital, but just to help someone get up. So we don't charge for that currently. It's a service. Well, should we charge for that? Because some of them, because that's their center or their facilities policy, we could be using our services over and over multiple times a day. So a lot of information, how can we, maybe that center we need to make a recommendation. They change their policy, I know.
I gotta tell you, if I'm in an assisted living and you can't assist me if I fall down, I'm not sure what assisted level that is really. I mean, it seems like that's why you would go there. And I don't know who you're talking about. I'm sure they have good reasons. They don't want, somebody could break something and they don't have qualified people on there to help them get up. But my stance would be, get qualified people. You're relying on the town to provide a service that you're charging for.
Well, and so that was just, so a lot of it was brainstorming, things that we see that are heading our way, decisions that we have to make, burden of our services. We talk a lot about paving. That's always, how do we get more money in our budget for paving?
See, that's a key. Let's talk about that a little bit, because
You shouldn't have brought up. You shouldn't have brought up
I
paving.
know I
around
should have
Keith.
waited until like December.
My hope is that you run the ambulances more and they continue to get bent rims. You have to replace the bent rims, and you realize the cost directly of the roads. That's my hope, to wrap all of this into one conversation topic right here. More ambulances, the town recognizes the roads. Maybe that's it.
Well, a lot of it's education, Keith, and a lot of the roads like Poplar Avenue, which it's bad. It needs to be resurfaced. We replaced the water line. So now the state is actually paying for the resurfacing. And so we have to work with the state. We have to have a little more patience with them. But there's been a lot of communication between the mayor and Tennessee Department of Transportation, or engineering department, is to getting that project on the schedule. Now, when you place a water line, you have to wait for those lines to settle. So you don't want to just pave right over, because the ground will compact and all that around the water line. So this summer, fall, hopefully closer to the end of summer, is when that project is supposed to be funded by TDOT so it can get resurfaced. So some of the roads are the town's responsibility, but some of the roads are not our responsibility. And we don't want to use taxpayer dollars on a road that is not our responsibility.
You've got
sure. I want somebody else to pay for it too. But and like you said, Poplar is bad, and there are some good roads in Collierville. I kid around and joke and give you a hard time and try to catch you off guard. But at the same time, it's gone on for an extended part. We've been talking about this for several years, about getting those pipes replaced and getting that repaved. At some point, you got to say it is the town's responsibility. We're going to pay for it and then build the state or something if they're committed, right? I mean, we can't just continue to wait on someone else to do it if they're not showing up,
Well, we actually are on schedule for that project. We knew that project was going to be several phases in several years. So it is on time, and there was no delay on getting that project completed. What they're working on now is the initial plan was to repave from 385 in Piperton to Byhalia Road. We're negotiating now to get them to go further to the west. So We're hoping to get more funds for more paving within the town. So people just hopefully they have patience. Hopefully, they know it's coming. We're working on it. And it will get done. In the meantime, if we have public services that will fix potholes, if you see something, say something, let us know. We don't try to ignore any kind of potholes anywhere. This kind of time of the year, the weather, when it gets hot and then it's cold and then it's hot and then it's cold, that's when you start seeing the pavement issues and more potholes. So, it's 70 degrees today, and it's the middle of January. So who knows what it will be like next week.
Well, I was in Schilling Farms this morning, and there was a Collierville crew on the Horseshoe in Schilling, continuing some repairs that they had started about 30 or 45 days ago. So yeah, they're out there. They're looking for opportunities to fix. So they're out there today, and I was glad to see that, because I had gotten a phone call a while ago that, hey, somebody needs to look at and address some of the potholes in Schilling, and boom, phone call, crew taking action, which is what we tend to do. A lot of times people don't think the town is aware or is ready to take action. And that, once again, as we talk about communication and the reality of things, that's not really how it is. That we are an action-taking community, aren't we, Maureen?
Yeah, we're here to service the residents and to do everything we can, within the budget, and that we can take care of for them. And, sometimes people want us to do things that, it's not we always talk about the free puppy. Is this a business that we want to be in? Because sometimes you have a grant, and I say free puppy, but sometimes there's a grant opportunity, but each grant opportunity has a list of items that you have to fulfill in order to receive that grant. So is it really a free money, or are there ties to it? So we have to look at every opportunity. We have our first grant administrator that's working within Town Hall. So any opportunities for grants within the police department, which there's usually a lot of public safety grants, fire department, engineering. This person's going to work with all the department heads, parks and rec, and work on getting additional grants and managing of the grants, because there's a lot of paperwork that's involved. There's a lot of stipulations with each grant.
Maureen, you got a great memory. You have a great memory. I got the notes from our meeting with Molly after your meeting, and yeah, she said you talked about the direction of upcoming CIP, direction on upcoming budget and program changes, as well as explored tax increase, and then an alignment with the BMA Planning Commission and Design Review Commission alignment. So yeah, the things you're talking about is exactly what she shared with us as far as the key topics during that retreat.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, I like to to hear about additions. I'm glad she's coming in and doing planning, and it sounds like that it is transition, but the transition sometimes creates opportunity because she's coming in and saying, "How's this going? What's about this?" And it's opening up conversations and things like that to move forward. And I see Jennifer says she's writing a story about grants manager now. Is the grants manager named Grant by chance?
No, his name is Orlando.
Dang, okay. I was just,
So no
just
grant.
would be good. That'd be just a great story, be a
And
great headline.
Yeah, it would be. Jennifer, our public information officer, just had a story about our new human resources director, Mr. Bill Burke, who's been a Collierville resident for, I think it was 17 some years, and he's now working for the town of Collierville. So if you're listening to our show, please sign up for the townofcollierville.org for the newsletters and all the information, because our public information office headed by Jennifer, they do an amazing job. And as the show, communication is the key. I mean, if you read, and we can't make you, but watch her Monday Minute, know what's going on, because we're all advocates and salespeople for our town.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit too, and we were talking a little bit pre-show about that, but it's real when you say those type of things. But before we move on, let me ask you about one thing. So, is it official that the landfill is closing down?
Yes.
It is. So that issue is do you think that we'll be able to recover any of the outstanding dollars there from the suit? Aren't we suing over some finances there? Or do you think that's just done with them filing bankruptcy and we're just glad to have it shut down?
No, the TDEC, Tennessee Department of Environmental Commission, will be handling the closing of the landfill, and our attorneys are still very much involved with that. There were several businesses involved. There's some undeveloped area south of the landfill, so that's still a legal discussion. It is closed. I actually drove by yesterday, and there was, the street sweeper was out there, and there was something going on. But it is officially closed, and I know it's still legal, so I don't know a whole lot more that I can say at this point.
Gotcha.
Do you know how many acres that is, Maureen? I'm curious to know the scale of that land there. Do you have any idea?
I don't. Without looking it up, I don't know.
No. Because then you start thinking, okay, what happens with that land next? What is the future of that area there that has, a landfill history, and what can you do with it? What can't you do with it? Was curious to know if you've heard anything about the future.
I don't. I do know that there's some buildings there, some offices. I believe all the equipment has been removed or is in the process of being removed. The landfill will have to be capped by Tennessee Department of Environmental Commission, TDEC, which the number I've heard is between $5 to $7 million to cap it. And then what do you do with it? But I believe there's still some development land south of the landfill that was part of that there was some area that was some of the Ombre Station at Frank Road that had been cleared for some housing. I think the plan was Mr. Brown was going to have more development behind that called Deer Walk. So there might be some more opportunity for residential on that vacant parcel, which I believe was the plan. So maybe that will be sold. I don't know.
Well, a lot of golf courses are built on former landfills. So maybe we can finally build that municipal golf course we've been talking about forever. Maybe there's the perfect spot
Maybe
for a new course in Collierville.
it would be a lot of hills, though, wouldn't it? I mean, it's like, woo.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool though to have it. I didn't know that golf courses were built on landfills like that. I mean, I guess it helps keep the grass green. Seeing what could be under there, but I don't know. But so Maureen mentioned a minute ago that we're all ambassadors for the town, and we've talked about this a lot. But kind of interesting is that you don't realize how much that you are, and that what like social media in particular plays for this. We've talked about it on the show before, but when you go out on social media and people are raising questions and they're saying things that are not factual, they're not looking to Jennifer Casey and they're not looking to the town for factual information. They're just being out there kind of starting stuff and talking and or watching this show to get the facts. That's our motto for the year is to provide the facts. Misinformation gets out there. Sometimes it's disinformation. Sometimes it's intentional. But people go out on social media and you think that you're just out here, oh, I'm on this group and I'm just chatting or I'm just complaining or whatever. But people are watching, and particularly the media is watching. Other media outlets are watching to the extent where they're picking it up and trying to make stories out of it. And of course, not a whole lot of positive stories get shown on the news these days.
Right.
So I mean, it compounds really. And so you if you want your town to be a good place to live, you might represent it well in places where the public and outside media may be looking at it, because it can expand. I mean, this just happened to you to some extent, right, John?
It did, and I won't go into detail about who it was and how it came about, but one of the local television stations picked up a comment or comments. I don't think it was 100 comments. I don't think it was 300 comments. I think it was 1, 2, maybe 3 comments on a social media site, not Facebook, somewhere else, about how, what's wrong with Collierville? A business was built and they got to sign on it, and they haven't opened. What's wrong? Or why did that business close down? All these businesses are closing down in Collierville. And the reporter wanted to talk to me about what's wrong with the Collierville economy. And, what's your angle? What are you basing that on? Well, a couple of comments I saw on a social media website. I'm thinking, the Collierville economy is in great shape. Thank you very much. So I'm going to look forward to, once again, talking to this television station and tell them the reality, the truth about what's going on in this community. And it's positive. Even this morning, I read an article about it's such a long name, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, who's building a 30,000 square foot facility on Byhalia between 385 and Shelby. They just acquired another company here in town, another credit union. And so they're growing and they're building and they're adding jobs and they're investing in our community. It was a great story, but there are stories like that all the time. We've talked about this. I'll talk about it again, because I've learned that you got to say something 25 times sometimes before it's picked up. But IMC, who has a 75,000 square foot corporate headquarters in Schilling Farms with 400 people, has bought additional land to build another building, another 75,000 square foot building there. Those are large multi-million dollar investments that bring people and infrastructure, et cetera, to our community. And with the whole Orgel project that's going on as we speak. In fact, I go before the BMA next Monday night for them to ratify the resolution that the Industrial Development Board has put together. That is a $77 million economic development project, which will then create a $100 million Orgel corporate campus with 450 jobs. In addition to that, it's going to create 600 construction jobs with a payroll of 22 million. And this new facility will bring in about 1,000 people a year to visit for 2, 3, 4 days. And that has a $2 million economic impact. So, and then slash, you got the park mixed use development at Houston Levy and 385 bubbling. You've got Byhalia Commons at Byhalia and 385, another mixed use development bubbling. Schilling Farms, a mixed use development at the center of town, which continues to grow and add products and services to include 6,000 square foot retail pads, where SOB south of Beale is coming, as well as next door, Marriott Towns Place Hotel. And then you've got the Wingo Group looking to put together another mixed use development behind Walmart called the Ashby. So, just because Jimmy John's hasn't opened up yet does not mean that there's a problem in the Collierville economy. But that's what people say and gravitate toward on social media. And okay, that's interesting. I can tell you the backstory if you want me to about that. But generally speaking, this town has momentum, and people are investing here, and we've got a very, very healthy economy. And that's what I hope to share with this particular media outlet.
And I bet once you share that with the media outlet, I bet $5 there's no story written, because that's not the story that they're looking for. They're looking for something to be wrong. They're looking to capitalize on something to be wrong, like some of these people on social media. And I don't hate to be negative. Maybe they do write a story. I hope they do write a story.
Yeah.
But if you're watching this, I hope you do. I'm just saying that the negative stuff just reverbs, man. And people go out and they do this, and people are looking at it and they're saying, oh, hey, Collierville, there's a chink in the armor. When the reality is that as you grow, as you get bigger, some things are going to change, and some places might not make it. If we had 5 places in town and one of them went out, okay, there might be a problem. But when you got 300 and 1 or 2 struggles, then all of a sudden, hey, this place went out, so Collierville must be having problems. There's so many other factors to go into. Was it the right location? Was it managed correctly? What are the national trends that could be affecting how people are shopping? And all of that type of stuff. And so it's just, you got to know the story. And the thing is that it's not hard to know the story in Collierville, because we are growing, we're bigger. But you can go to the town website, you can call up and ask for John. Everybody's willing to answer questions and tell you the truth. So if you're out there spewing bogus stuff that you don't know anything about on social media, just stop, because you don't know what you're talking about, and you're hurting the town by doing it. And you live here, so why would you hurt your own town? If there's something negative and it is factual and you want to talk about it, talk about it. We're just saying, make sure that it's true, of what you're talking about. Make sure that you know all of what's going, because the reality of it is, if you're expanding something and you're talking about something that is bad for the town and it is not factual, you are contributing to the problem. And this is a good example of it. A news outlet outside of Collierville wants to come in and do a story about the Collierville, something wrong with Collierville because someone made some social media comments that were untrue. And so it's just a good example of what we harp on here.
Exactly.
But
yeah, I'm not saying the fact that business never opened or that business shut down, that's true. But that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the Collierville economy, because I would ask somebody, okay, how long has Huey's been in business? How long has Longhorn Steakhouse and Collierville Commissary and Jim's Place? I was at Jim's Place Monday night for my birthday dinner. It was packed. It was SRO in there. So, and Nukes was shut down, but Nukes has new management and they're off and going again. Then I look at how our Home Depot and Lowe's and our 2 Krogers and our Target and our Academy all performed through COVID. They excelled and grew their business because people in this economy were interested in their products and services. In fact, I've got the sales tax numbers right here. Collierville continues to grow their sales tax revenues, and people continue to call me and Maureen and Molly Maynard and others about investing here and being part of this thing. So I feel really good about where we are and what we are and where we're going. And it is a good story to tell. And hopefully I'll have that opportunity to share that with this particular news outlet. Yeah.
And there's, like you said, there are businesses that are closing, but you got to keep in context of the other things that are opening and all those type of things, and tell the whole story. And so, but there's I think that if you were to look at the town, if I were to look at the town and I were to try to look at any particular pain points of the town, there's no doubt that there is some transition. There is something happening at Carriage Crossing, right? So people look at Carriage Crossing and say, hey, what's happening in Collierville? What's happening in Collierville is shifting and changing, is that the patterns are shifting. There's new things building that's pulling from it. There's all kinds of things that are at play there. But it is hard to, I will sympathize, I guess, with the general public, because if you drive through Carriage Crossing, you think, wow, what's happening in Collierville? You can think that. There's no denying that. So do you want to speak to that, John? Maybe there's something going on there, because you got to face that, right? And that could be helping people to believe the wrong thing about Collierville.
Right. And I think what the story is on facilities like Carriage Crossing nationally, and we're not immune to that, is that type of product, that type of retail product has had its challenges the last 5+ years. I read the retail reports. I'm involved with the commercial real estate community. Retail has been challenged of late for a variety of reasons, to include, the online shopping phenomenon that's going on. But brick and mortar retail is still very strong, and brick and mortar retail is still a positive product out there. But it gets back to what you said a second ago. Tell me about your product. Tell me about your service. Tell me about your pricing. Tell me about your positioning in the market. Is your struggles, Mr. Retailer, a function of my community, or are your struggles more a function of your business model? And that's the question that needs to be asked. And many retailers have struggled, and many of those retailers were part of Carriage Crossing. But I am still in communication with a group that is very interested in buying Carriage Crossing, to rebrand it, to repurpose it, to create new access and new signage, because they're bullish. They believe they can make it work, especially in this market at that location. So to me, that's a positive story and a potentially positive outcome of the whole retail imbalance over the last 5-6 years. So yeah, I can understand why people would be concerned about what they see, but I also feel like I'm privy sometimes to a little bit more information about what's going on, and I'm positive about it. There's a new hotel there. I talked to this Top Golf company a couple of days ago about putting their product near there, and they're still interested in doing that. A lot of this is glacial, Keith. We've talked about that before. This development doesn't happen overnight. It's due diligence and analysis and planning, and it takes time. So with all of that said, we have to lean on where we're located, our economy, our demographics, our planning, our strategy, and I think that positions us to continue to grow and have success. So let me get 2 pom-poms out, and I'll do a cartwheel here in a second.
Right. Yeah.
But I am, based on what I know, I am bullish about this community. And then you throw in things like, here comes Ford Motor Company, here comes Oracle's new facility, here comes maybe some new buyers for Carriage Crossing. The residential market continues to grow. I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a whole we are, and that's what people have to maintain, in context. It's not this doom type. Hey, this thing hasn't opened up, or this is Carriage Crossing is struggling. Those things can be true, but not indicative of the entire thing failing or there's being problems. And that's what happens on social media. Is you go out there and it just snowballs, and and then all of a sudden the average income for Collierville is $4,000 a year, and you're like, how did we get here? I mean, it's just like, what did that?
Whoa,
doesn't make sense, and so, but that happens. So be careful, and be factual, what you're talking about. You did mention one thing, where you had said that the housing market is good, and I think that's an indicator. And I'm going to go back to Maureen. Thanks, John, for your updates today. Go back to Maureen real quick before we hop off. So what I have read, Maureen, and I know you're starting to talk about this, I saw in your newsletter, but what I've read is that nationally, the housing market, the prices of existing homes is tanking. is what I've read. And I've read that the pricing of existing homes, when I say tanking, I mean going back to maybe pre-pandemic levels, and so, which is a tank from where it is now, right? But what I've heard is that the data that comes out from the official institutions lags on, when you turn in the home sales and that kind of stuff. So they're a couple of months behind. But if you were to go out and look at Zillow and Realtor.com and some of these type of things and evaluate their data set, which is more current based off of what houses are selling, what houses are listing for today, and provide a profile. So this article I read did that and said, hey, you're looking at 20% by December of 2023. We'll have a 20% decline in home values from where we were in maybe December or October 2022. Something like that, 20% decline. Maybe it was a little bit longer, 18 months or something like that. From what I'm reading in yours, obviously you're in real estate, leading real estate in Collierville, is that Collierville may not be experiencing that same trend. But I'll ask you two questions. Are you seeing that same trend? Is what I'm reading, is there any accuracy to what I'm reading? Because I don't want to be spreading BS. So I'm asking you, is there any validity to what I'm reading? And if it is Collierville along that same trend?
What you are reading is not what's happening in the Collierville market. There are certain parts in this country that are experiencing that. There's certain areas, New York for one, California, there's a lot of people trying to move out of those areas for different reasons, what's going on. A lot of workers can now work remote, and so they can choose where they want to live. And Tennessee is getting a lot of people moving into the state because of our no income tax. Florida is experiencing that as well. So there are a lot of factors that go into that. Now, the Collierville market, the inventory is still low. The holidays is always low, but we're into January now, so we're starting to see more and more homes come available. Part of a complex point this time is interest rates. So last year, May, June, July, you would list a house for $475,000, and you may have 10 offers, and you may end up selling it for well over list price. They'd waive the appraisal. They'd have an inspection. They wouldn't ask for any repairs. And it was I call it crazy. It was a crazy time. Now there's a house listed on the market. You may get just one offer, but it's going to still be close to full price. But you're still going to have, most now buyers are going to have an inspection. You may have to negotiate for some repairs, and it will have to appraise. So the low interest rate last year, the rates have gone up some. They're still less than right around 6% or below. I don't know about you guys when you bought houses, but I think a house that we bought way back in 1996, 97, I think we were paying 12 to 14% interest rate. Yeah. I know Mr. Green mentioned the other day, or actually it was Larry Boyd with Patriot Mortgage, when he got in the mortgage business, interest rates were like 18%. So it's all relative. It's always a good time to buy a house, but what happens now, you might pay a little bit more in the interest rate, but you're not going to have to overpay for the house. So it kind of equals itself out as far as we can tell. Now, I was doing a little study.
But that is negative for the homeowner that's selling, right? That makes it a buyer's market. If what you're saying is that you're going to pay more in interest rate, for your note to be the same, you're paying less in house value, then you're either buying less of a house or the house values have dropped. So the homeowners are taking the hit of the increased interest rate, because if I got $2,000 a month to spend on a note, I got $2,000 a month to spend on a note. Maybe that got me $500,000 a year and a half ago, and maybe it gets me $300,000 today. But the whole people that are selling the homes have to adjust values to compensate for that, right?
And some are wanting to list sooner than later so they can take advantage of it if they hear this national news that the values are going down. But most of the time, if you sell a house, you're going to have to buy a house. So you may have, and that's part of why we have low inventory.
Yeah.
My house right now, our house is way too big. We don't need it. It's just David and I. The kids are all on their own. But our interest rate's like 2.5%. Right. So if we sell our house, and we could sell it for a good amount of money, whatever we buy, we're going to pay higher price per square foot, and we're going to have a higher interest rate. So what's happening is people like me are saying, oh, I'm just going to sit tight. I'm not going to sell right now. Because I'll get less for my money. And that has contributed to that. But I was doing just a study. There was 3 new houses that were listed yesterday in the Stables. And there was a big it said final phase of the Stables. So the Stables is Wolf River, just west of Bray Station. And these houses are listed for $900,000 to $925,000. And I went back and I looked at the history, and the very first sale in the Stables was $525,000. And I believe that was in 2017. So the same house, the same builders, the same amenities. Maybe they've changed a few things in the design, but have gone up almost, from 525 to 925.
Wow.
In a matter of 4 to 5 to 6 years. So it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I wish I was that first person.
And the net of that is that that's Collierville is an in-demand area, right? So that's why you see it some here is that, as to buck the trends a little bit, people are wanting to move to this type of area, and people are wanting to stay if they have a house here and they're able to stay. And so you can end up having that low inventory. So, it's good to see that we're faring okay there. And it may, the market had to stabilize, right? It did. I wish that it would stay up forever. And I think that, really the core of it, again, that I've read is that as interest rates rise, when interest rates were at that 10% level that you were talking about, for example, or maybe they were at an 8% level, then in order to get people into houses, there was all these programs where you're doing interest rate buy downs and you're doing all these ARMs and all this type of stuff. And then all that caught up with us. And then 2008. So if we continue to have the increased interest rates, which are hopefully slowing down a little bit from the Fed, but if we continue to see that, as long as the mortgage companies don't start doing funny stuff, as long as Larry Boyd doesn't go crazy on us and start doing funny stuff, then the market should hold okay, right? As far as it not tanking and going into a complete tank. Is that
well?
Is that
and there's
true?
a lot of not new regulations on financing and mortgages, and there's some creativity where the mortgage companies are helping you with a buy down, like they'll pay a point of the loan amount towards a lower interest rate, so you might be able to get a 4.5% interest rate for the very first year to give you time to plan. But you also look at rental prices. If you can afford to buy a house, even at 6% interest, you really need to buy a house. It's going to be less expensive than renting. Sure. Because the rental prices have just gone. You look at the charts nationally, they're going straight up. And that could be because of all the out-of-state investors that have purchased in our area. Yep. That are buying up these, buying these houses, and they have to charge enough rent because they may not have someone in there 12 months out of a year.
And it seemed like most of the houses I've seen in Collierville for rent, it was between $2,000 and $2,500. That kind of seemed to be the rental spot. Can I share something with you guys? We have started to survey new residents. Anybody that comes in here to turn their water on, we ask them a couple questions, and it's interesting what we have found out in a short period of time. But once again, I think this talks too about our diversity as a community, and we're not dependent on one thing. So this is somebody's moving within Collierville, upsizing within Collierville. They're coming from Charleston, South Carolina. They're coming from Columbus, Mississippi, Maryland, Lakeland, Tennessee, from the Collierville apartments to a new home in Wolf Ridge, from Collierville, Tennessee, moving up within Collierville. So right there are people coming from the region, nationally, and within Collierville, and within the area, within Shelby County, to come to Collierville. So that's a good thing. I think, just real quick off the top of my head, to give you an example of what's happening with the folks, who are they that are coming here?
Yeah, no, it is. It's interesting. I'd be interested to hear more of those results and some of the questions that people are asking and that are answering as well. I'd love to ask them a whole bunch of questions, but if we could, we go through. First off, everyone that signs up for water, you need to supply us with your Facebook username so we can cut your water off when you start being crazy. I think that's its first requirement, but. No, so thanks for the update today, guys, and we're right at time, and so we're trying to kind of stay on time for everybody this year, and but please watch us as we're going to continue to go through things. I think today was a good show at a 30,000 foot level of the things that we talk about. So we're talking about real estate pricing. We're talking about what's coming. We're talking about what's going out. We're talking about what it means. We're talking about what's happening with the town. We're talking about why you're hitting potholes. All types of things that are happening in town. But it really, we don't know how to provide you any more information than we're providing you unless you give us feedback. So hit us in the chat, hit us in the comments, hit any of us during the week and say, hey, here's something I'd like for you guys to discuss, and we'll bring it up. We'll talk about it. You'll see, if you go back and look at old episodes, you'll see a question in the chat, and then you'll see us talk about it. And so we're happy to do that. All of us are doing this because we're invested in Collierville one way or another, and we want to see Collierville grow in the right direction. And so we hope you do too, and that supporting the show understands that you're helping to support having the right information out there for Collierville. So thanks everybody for joining us. Maureen, John, thanks for being here today, and we'll pick up next week.
Thank you, Keith.
Bye-bye.